Another one. Another one. Touchdown, Jags! Ball game!
Another Jags podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 56 of Another Jags podcast. I'm here tonight with Jason. Joey is out sick, and although we're sorry that he's out sick, we're not sorry that he's out.
Right.
Okay. Just want to clarify that first. So, of course, listen up, because as we believe, and I'm sure you do as well, this is going to be one of our better episodes because of Joey's absence, as is always the case. Tonight we're going to be answering some Twitter questions, along with talking about some things that we're bringing up. But before we get to all those things, we want to remind everyone that we are on Twitter at Another Jags Pod. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Another Jags Podcast. Also on YouTube, search Another Jags Podcast, and you can find our episodes there. We are going to talk about quarterbacks, as always. We're going to talk about free agents, who we think the Jags should go after, and all that good stuff. But we're actually going to talk about, first, a hire that the Jaguars made this week that got some attention, but not a lot. And I think it's because, I don't know, it's not necessarily something we're going to see many repercussions from or any benefit for, really. And that is the hiring of Dom Capers, former Jaguars defensive coordinator, along with many other places where he's been defensive coordinator as well as a head coach. So, Jason, I'll just ask you right off the bat, what does this hire do for you?
It makes me think that Tom Coughlin and Doug Marrone and all these front office guys are just hanging out at the Ponte Vedra Club playing golf all the time. And they were like, let's just get some more of our buddies down here just to kind of take advantage of this whole situation, because what is a 68-year-old defensive assistant going to do for you nowadays?
Right.
Like, he was 9 years with the Packers. I mean, does the Packers defense ever been like one that you've been jealous of or admired even?
No.
Not really. I mean, they had a couple good players at the linebacker position for a number of years, but that's about it. And it just, I mean, it's not, I don't understand why we're getting older. Like, that's not what we need to be doing. We need to be getting younger. Like, what's Dom Capers going to know about stopping Cliff Kingsbury's offense?
Right.
Like, what's he going to do? What in his 20 years is going to help him stop Kyler Murray out of the gun every snap? Like, I don't know. It just seems like a backwards move for me.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny that you say that about them hanging out at the golf course, because when the hire was made, I texted a few of my buddies and was like, Coughlin just wants someone to drink coffee with in the morning and like crack jokes,
right?
Exactly. And give Caldwell noogies with, that. I mean, it just seems like a buddy move. And this has to be a Coughlin hire. I don't see why Marrone would have made this at all,
or Caldwell,
right? Or Caldwell. So this is a total Coughlin move, in which, here's what it means to me. It means to me that there's no chance that they get Kyler Murray.
That's pretty,
yeah. Because why would you get a guy like Capers, and then also, I mean, you can't hire one and have this at the same mindset draft a guy like Kyler Murray. So, like you, it just, I don't know, it just seems like a age move, and we're not following the trends of the NFL. We're not getting younger, where all these other teams are hiring young guys. I mean, look at you look at the entire new Green Bay coaching staff, and they're all young. And yes, Andy Reid is an older guy in Kansas City, but they are a young team. He is a offensive minded guy. So, and here we go hiring someone that it's just brings no excitement. And I guess he does have experience, but it's experience in the old NFL, not the new NFL.
And there's gonna be people out there that are saying Dom Capers is a defensive coach. He only going to deal with the defense, but that's not how these things work. That's not how these NFL front offices go. They bring in this guy to be pretty much an advisor to the entire team. He's not going to look at him and say, all right, we want just your input on defense, and then look at Bevel and went, okay, we just want your input on offense. Like, Capers is going to have an influence on the entire team because that's the position that he's in. He's not a coordinator. He's a guy that's to sit in all the meetings with Coughlin and give him advice. So I get that his advice is probably valuable because of his age and experience, but that's not the way the NFL is moving. Like, can you imagine the way the NFL defense is played 20 years ago versus now? It's completely different. So it doesn't seem like a wise move to me, unless we're making a bigger deal out of what he's actually going to be doing than he is, which I hope is the case.
Right. And I want to know what a defense advisor even means. I mean, is he just going to be in Todd Wash's ear the whole time? You know, do they expect this group of defensive players that can be, I guess you could say, unruly at times? Like suddenly they're going to bring him in and they're going to behave themselves and mind their P's and Q's. I mean, I just don't see that happening. But maybe that's what they're thinking. Someone with a little more clout, a little more experience in the NFL is going to be able to speak some sense into guys that have acted out in the past. But I don't see that happening at all. So it's an interesting hire. It just, and until they clearly define his role, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Kind of like, I guess, what you were saying too, but just that, you know, Coughlin needed someone to play golf with, you know, on the off days, and he can take Capers' money on the golf course. I don't know.
They both have a lot of it, so that's
yes, they do.
Nice.
Yes, they do. There's plenty to go around for sure. All right. So that's something we definitely wanted to touch on. Any Twitter questions we want to get to?
Yeah, I really like this Twitter question from Mike Yazigi. He always brings the heat with these questions. And he's at Mike_Yazigi94. And he brings up a point that just happened. It's new as well. And he asks, season ticket prices being raised. Thoughts? ?
Well, I'm gonna defer to you on this one first because you are a season ticket holder, and ask your thought on it.
Okay, so if those of you that follow me on my personal Twitter, plug JTrent904.
There you go.
I tweeted a picture of my renewal packet sent to me by the Jaguars, and I tagged Jalen Ramsey in it, and I said, will not renew season tickets until Jalen Ramsey gets a long-term extension.
I wonder if anyone liked that tweet.
It was actually liked by Jalen himself.
Oh, wow.
So
greatest moment of your life?
This is the second thing he's liked. So,
okay.
It's right up there with the other thing he
so
liked.
It sounds like you guys are almost best friends.
You could say that.
Yeah.
You could expect him in here next week.
Excellent.
But I am going to firmly stand on that. So I will not renew until they sign him because I had buddies that went with me to every game and they scalped every game and they've spent probably half the money I did and sat in the same seats I did. I understand because we were bad and I was expecting us to be good this year and ticket prices to be expensive. So I was thinking I was going to get the bargain by getting the season tickets, but my buddies repeatedly rubbed at my face that they spent half the money I did and went to all the same games that I did. So there's point A.
Your buddies are jerks.
They are.
It should be known.
No doubt about that.
Let's bring some context.
Yeah,
to this
absolutely.
Really
but secondly, I stand by if the franchise isn't going to give me what I want to see, which is Jalen Ramsey, then I don't want what they have to offer. And so I don't care if you raise the prices or not. You can charge me whatever you want to watch Jalen Ramsey. Let me just put it that way.
Right. Okay. Fair point for sure. And I'm going to assume that the hiring of Dom Capers is not, as a season ticket holder, something you're going to invest in as well. Like you're not excited to see him on the sidelines or
nope, not tipping the balance for me. Nope.
Okay, gotcha. All right, just making sure. No, I agree, and it's easy for me to say I don't mind because I'm not a season ticket holder. I married into season tickets, which is probably the best way to go about doing it.
Oh yeah.
But you know, in the context of the NFL, Jaguars still have an incredibly, I don't know if they're the cheapest tickets, you know, for most teams, but they're one of the cheapest in all of the league. And look, you know, this is life. You know, milk doesn't cost 50 cents a gallon anymore. You know, things go up in price, and so we can expect that no matter what the product on the field is. Now, I think what you can expect, though, when prices do increase is for season ticket holders like Jason and other people to voice their frustrations, and they have every right to do so. That's not going to, I don't think, change the fact that ticket prices are always going to go up. It's just going to happen. It's the way, you know, as other costs increase, so will season tickets because you have to pay the bills. But the Jaguars have to start making this team exciting. Otherwise, it's going to, you know, people are going to just stop altogether buying these tickets. You know, besides the diehards are going to buy their season tickets regardless of the product because they're just invested. They have been for years, and they don't want to break that streak. You know, my father-in-law has had season tickets for over 20 years. He's not going anywhere. And there is that group of people. But as you're bringing up a new generation of Jags fans that want to see a winner, that are tired of the perennial loser, then we have to see a better product. And we have to also appear like we are adapting. And with, again, going back to the Capers hire, it doesn't look like we are. So, you know, There's been no movement in the front office in terms of Caldwell being let go. Coughlin's here now, an old school guy. You know, you have to give the fans something to be excited about when you are increasing the prices of season tickets. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah, let me put this in perspective for some people, because I've been a Jaguar fan my whole life. We both were pretty young when the Jags came to the city, and it was easy for us to become lifelong fans. And we watched the team from the very beginning to now. But can you imagine a 18-year-old Jaguar fan right now? Sometimes we don't put this into perspective. These are the quarterbacks that an 18-year-old have seen for the Jaguars start. Chad Henne, Blaine Gabbert, David Garrard, Byron Leftwich, Trent Edwards, Luke McCown, Cody Kessler,
Blake Bortles.
Yeah. How could I forget? Those Todd Bowman, Quinn Gray.
Stop.
These are the guys that 18-year-olds have seen. I mean, those are adults now, and they never saw Mark Brunell. They never saw that high-powered offense that we got to watch. Those fans, of course, they're not buying tickets. What do you expect? Imagine trying to sell tickets to those people. Do something exciting. I'm really surprised Shad Khan hasn't really taken this thing over and kind of made it more of a gimmicky team.
Right.
Kind of the way a Raiders team would, because he's not a traditional NFL owner. So what does he have to gain by bringing guys like Coughlin and Capers and all these guys? It doesn't make any sense to me, but we'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah, it'll be. I don't know. It's just leave it to the Jags to have maybe one of the most boring hires of all the offseason so far. It's just kind of typical. But, listen, season ticket prices are always going to increase.
Yeah, inflation.
They're never going to decrease, and they're hardly ever going to stay the same. It's just the way the world works. So we can be frustrated with it. It wouldn't be as big a deal if we were winning. It wouldn't be as big a deal if we were making moves that were exciting the fans. But so far, none of that is really happening. So it's something for Jags fans who are bitter to really, sink their teeth into and hold tight to and be mad about. But look, it's going to happen. It's probably going to happen next offseason and the offseason after that. So need to get used to it.
All right, this next question is from Mike Wilbraham, and he's at Abe for Lincoln. Other than quarterbacks, what position group or players are you most looking for at the Combine?
Other than quarterback?
Other than quarterback.
Wide receiver. I mean, I think that's a huge one because that's a huge need. Tight end would be another one. Yeah, I want to see some skill position. Obviously, it's good to look at offensive linemen and all that, but there's a lot of talk about the Jags improving their offense with skill position players, and so that's where I'm going to look. See if there's any guys that aren't being talked about that maybe we can get in the second or third round. Because I still think and hope that we're going quarterback in the first round. And so who are some guys that can, sneak into the second or, maybe fall to the second round, or a gem that we can find in the second round that's going to help that quarterback that we draft. So that's where I'm going.
I think we're going to end up with Nick Foles, but we can talk about that later with another Twitter question. So I think that we will take a position player in the first round. So I'm excited for the Combine. I think my favorite position to watch in the Combine is offensive lineman. It blows people away to hear that because they would think it's boring. But in reality, you can tell more about offensive linemen at the Combine than any other position. Quarterbacks look good throwing on air. Receivers look good not being covered. DBs look good doing the same ball drills they've done since high school. These guys look good, but these offensive linemen, you can tell a lot just with your eyeball test, and you can kind of tell which ones have natural form and technique and which ones are just big and bulky, can get in the way. And they both can work, but you kind of get a better sense of it. Jonah Williams is an undersized offensive lineman, and he's so technical that his size doesn't even bother. I mean, he's still the number one lineman and projected in the draft, and he's really not even sized for a tackle correctly. Dalton Risner out of Kansas State is a smaller version of Jonah Williams. Juwan Taylor from Florida is going to be a guy that I'm excited to watch. Greg Little from Ole Miss. Ole Miss always put out a certain type of offensive lineman, just that big grizzly bear offensive lineman. So We'll see. But yeah, offensive lineman is a fun position to watch in the combine. So if you guys should check it out sometime.
Yeah, I mean, the combine's next week, so the offseason is going to start ramping up here in just a few short days. And so if nothing else, I'm looking forward to that. I'm not as combine experienced as Jason, but I am looking forward to it just because the wheels start turning. Then pro days come after that. And, I know he said besides quarterback, but I think that's obviously the one I'll be looking at the most because, I want him to draft a rookie quarterback in the first round. We'll see if it happens. We have differing opinions on that. Not that we want, but what we think will happen, I guess. So let's go. I'm ready for the combine. Let's get going here.
Just some other football that we can watch besides the AAF.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this next question is from.
By the way, the AAF really missed the mark by not calling themselves the FAF, like just football AF.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
And that's marketable.
Yeah, exactly.
AAF,
Yeah, it is kind of like odd to say AAF. Maybe it hasn't caught on yet, but.
FAF. That rolls off the tongue.
That was
Y'all
it.
missed it.
All right, so this next question is, well, there's kind of two questions that are kind of the same. We want questions from Jason, and he's at RatHCP, and he says, let's assume we don't sign a receiver or tight end in free agency. Which do you think they'll take first in the draft?
Wide receiver. At least that's what I hope because, again, we've said it on here before. I like O'Shaughnessy. I think he can be a contributing move tight end for the team, and then go get a blocking tight end or another tight end in the later round. But I don't want to see a tight end drafted with a, 7th overall pick. I mean, that's crazy. And then if they wait to the second round, So I think wide receiver, you almost have to go wide receiver in that pick. That's way too soon for a tight end, in my opinion. For a guy that's going to get, I understand that a good tight end is super valuable in the NFL now, but I would rather them go get a stud wide receiver. And I'm not sure. I guess the argument would be, is there a stud wide receiver in this draft? And if there's not, then okay, I guess you go tight end, but I would trade back if that was the case. If they aren't convinced that there is a game-changing wide receiver, then trade back and then go get your tight end. But do not do it at 7th overall. That's crazy. Is it because there's no Travis Kelce in this draft as far as I'm concerned. That's going to set the world on fire his rookie year or going forward. So if that's the case, then trade out of 7, try and drop back, and then get them mid-round to late first round. That's what I would do. But other than that, I would say go get your wide receiver because, they were terrible last year. And Chark is a huge question mark. Marquise Lee's coming off an ACL, which we've said before, Jason, you specifically, that it takes a solid year. Well, that's quarterbacks. We don't know.
Probably more for
probably more for a wide receiver. Yeah. So I don't know. It could be bad. They need a wide receiver really bad. So if they don't do that in free agency, which there's not a lot to choose from, then it looks like it is the draft. Then that's the way they need to go.
I'm in a tough spot here because I agree with everything you said. I just look at the value of where you're getting players, and that's where I'm having trouble because last year there wasn't a lot of value in the second round for wide receivers. I don't think they're as good this year as they were last year, but I think there's more value in the second round, which is, I know, kind of confusing, but I feel like they're all late first round guys.
Right, I get what you're saying.
From DK Metcalf to AJ Brown to Deebo Samuels. I think all those guys are like late first round talent. And I think you'll be able to get one of those guys in the second round. And I don't think you'll be able to get a decent tight end after. Honestly, I think that TJ Hawkinson from Iowa is going to be the only good tight end in this draft. You look at, there's been only 8 tight ends in the first round in the last 10 NFL drafts.
Yeah.
So, that's under 1 per year. These guys just don't usually get taken in the first round. But after Hawkinson, the next best player is his teammate, who was mainly like a blocking guy.
Right.
So it's like, I think Hawkinson could be a good pick. Mel Kiper just mocked that the Lions are going to take Hawkinson at 8. And the Lions have taken 2 tight ends in the first round in their history. So
one of them who is still in the league, not on their team anymore.
Yeah.
Who they would consider a bust.
Yeah, Ebron was supposed to, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's tough. I understand the need, and I get that tight end's like huge now. If you're bringing in a guy like Foles, you have to get him a tight end. You have to. I mean, I like O'Shaughnessy, but he's not going to be able to carry the load in an offense that passes the ball 40, 50 times. It just isn't going to happen. So I think they're going to have to bring somebody in, and there's not a lot out there in free agency. We tried the free agency route this year, and it failed miserably, from ASJ to what's the guys from the Redskins? Niles Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, it was you know.
I think we fall in love with the tight end position, but I think that's a bit of a misnomer because, I mean, how many good teams really have like a stud tight end? There's the Eagles, the Chiefs. I mean, is Gronkowski a stud tight end still?
No, but he wasn't but for a long time he was elite.
He was elite, but I mean, besides them, you know, like the Rams don't have a stud tight end. I mean, they have a good tight end, but it's not someone that, you know, most fans would know who he is. The Saints didn't have a, you know.
I mean, they had Jimmy Graham for a little bit. He wasn't that great there.
I'm more talking about like this year. You know?
That's true.
Jimmy Graham was good in his prime, but that's long since passed. I just mean like.
But the ones that were good dominated though.
But there's only a handful of those.
Yeah.
I mean, like really a handful.
Like if you can find a Travis Kelce, I mean, you're golden. And I mean, I guess that's what everyone's trying to do is find the Kelce, find the Gronkowski, find the Ertz. Find the guy like that just totally changes your offense altogether. You think Mahomes is as good as he is without Kelce? There's no way.
No.
And so you just, you know, tight end is a huge deal, but they are hard to hit on. That's the problem.
And I mean, if you look at all the playoff teams, the Chargers don't have one. Their guy Henry was out all year. The Texans, I mean, who's their tight end?
Fedorowicz.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you go down the list. There's just not many, but so for some reason everyone's like, we got to get a tight end. Well, do you? I mean, do you really? Obviously, if you have one, it's great for you, but I don't think it's something that you put at the top of your list because the league proves that you don't have to have one in order to be a playoff team. I just think we're so thin at receiver. It scares me what could happen next year by banking on the guys that we have. It's a lot of ifs. You know, if Chark develops, if Marquise Lee is healthy, if Dede can continue to progress. He's the safest bet in my opinion. But is that really what you're willing to chance it on? Whether you go Foles or rookie, to me that's a desperate position. They have got to do something there.
I mean, you saw how quick Charles Clay got snatched up on free agency. He was like the first guy signed out of everybody. I mean, you're looking at guys like Tyler Eifert, Deion Sims, Jared Cook, who's a bum. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is the next highest rated tight end.
Yeah, it's nothing.
I mean, Luke Wilson from Detroit, Mercedes Lewis, Demetrius Harris. Like, there's not a lot out there.
Wow, what if the Jags went and signed Mercedes Lewis back and just kept O'Shaughnessy? Or, you know, I think it's still possible we move Blake Bortles to tight end. I'm still holding out hope.
I don't think Mercedes Lewis finds his way back, unfortunately. I wish he would. I think he's done. But, Bortles could be tight end.
Blake. I don't know. It's just not much out there.
It's tough. I mean, that's what, it is. It's not easy. All right, we move on. Next question.
I guess so. Let me ask you this really quick. Yeah, kind of, this is going a little bit off topic from that, but based on the fact that wide receiver is such a problem and an issue for the team, would you go after Antonio Brown?
I would not, because I think we have I get the argument of go after Antonio Brown and draft a quarterback, but how frustrated is Antonio Brown going to get with a rookie quarterback?
Yeah.
There's no other option. If you're going to spend the money to bring in Antonio Brown, you're not going to be able to afford a free agent quarterback. So that kind of puts us in a tough spot.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in a better position if we get a free agent quarterback and draft a receiver, because I've watched football long enough to know that receivers lose their value probably faster than any position. Maybe running back, but nowadays we're seeing this emergence of receiving backs that play in the league for a long time.
Yeah.
So I would say that the value of receivers drops tremendously. I mean, we look throughout the history, these receivers are like not earning their contracts. Look how fast Amari Cooper got traded, right? And I mean, because he wasn't performing well in Oakland. It wasn't like they were trying to shed cap. They were, but I mean, he was a different player in Dallas.
Yeah.
And it just, I feel like you see, I mean, how fast did Calvin Johnson fall off? You know, how many guys have played next to Julio Jones that have gotten massive contracts and have just fallen off since then? You see it happen all the time. Look how many receivers we've had that we thought were going to blow up and got little contracts here and there. Hearns and Robinson. And it just, you never know with receivers. So I wouldn't want to invest in Antonio Brown. I wouldn't. I get the argument, though.
Yeah. I mean, with every social media post he makes, he's just decreasing his value, too.
Yeah. He needs some better advice.
He does. I mean, and, his numbers did decrease this year from the year before. It would never work here. It just wouldn't work. So I don't think it's going to happen. I will say Joey said, for the record, he wants him here. He wants him to be a Jaguar. So
Joey said that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was adamant about it too.
He must be sick then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Under the weather.
But yeah, I mean, it's not, he's not Coughlin's never going to go after him. So if there are any Jaguar fans out there that are thinking the Jags should and will go after Antonio Brown, it's not happening. Coughlin just hired Dom Capers. He is not going to go get Antonio Brown. Anyway, just throwing that out there.
All right, so I'm going to throw Golden Tate out of this conversation because obviously he's the number one guy that we all would want if we could take a free agent receiver. It would be
Right.
Golden Tate. So let me just throw these names at you. I'm going to throw 4 names at you, and you tell me who you would rather have on the Jags.
I'm not excited about this already.
All right, first one's Randall Cobb.
No. I can't believe he's still in the league.
Me neither. Okay, so Randall Cobb, Cordero Patterson, Chris Hogan, or Adam Humphries.
Cordero Patterson is who I would go with of those 4.
Yeah, I mean, he was so pedestrian with Tom Brady, though. I mean, that's tough to do.
Yeah, he was, but sometimes I don't know. I wonder, Belichick's brought guys in, and I mean, they let Brandon Cooks go,
Yeah.
and so
It's true.
how their offense runs, it's so dink and dunk, I think there still could be some value. But look, we're talking about 4 names that none of them I think are winning.
Those are the best ones available in free agency. That's the problem.
Oh, not Chris Hogan. I mean, I
Adam
don't know.
Humphries?
I would go with Patterson. That's who I'd go with.
I like Adam Humphries. I think Adam Humphries could be a good quarterback or a good receiver in a system. Like if he was with the Patriots, he'd be like the best receiver in the league.
You think so?
I think so, yeah. Because he just runs such crisp routes. He catches the ball. I mean, that's what New England uses.
Yeah.
So
Maybe that's where he'll land.
probably will, to be honest.
Why not?
Yeah, him or Cole Beasley's going to end up there for sure. All right. So next question from Twitter. This one is from 001 Lucas. And he's at Lucas06786088. And he says, or asks, who should we target in free agency besides a quarterback? And if we don't get a quarterback in free agency or draft, should we trade for Derek Carr?
Okay. I'm going to say this. Who should we target in free agency besides a quarterback? I think we should go after Le'Veon Bell.
Ooh.
I really do.
Yeah.
No, I think we should go after Le'Veon Bell because he's a freak. We could then package Leonard Fournette in some sort of trade, either for a draft pick or whatever. But we could trade him for something, somewhere at some time to some team. And then I think that gives you the luxury of having maybe a Tyrod Taylor as your quarterback, or which I know is a free agent quarterback, but possibly go after him, or I think you could draft a quarterback then, and I would even say you can move up as far as you need to get a guy that you believe is the guy, which I will say is Haskins. If you draft Haskins and jump up to get him, and you have Le'Veon Bell as a running back, then, and you get it, as you were saying, Jason, get maybe a wide receiver in the second round, start building that offense. It would be, I think, pretty formidable. I would like them to see them make a run at Le'Veon Bell. I don't think they will, but I would like to see them do it.
So Le'Veon, this is the latest that came out about Le'Veon Bell. Apparently, according to 24/7 Sports, he says that he wants a 2-year, $15 million contract.
5-0?
Yes.
That's steep. What is he thinking?
Todd Gurley signed a 4-year, $60 million contract. So he wants to be paid more than Todd Gurley.
Wow, that's a significant amount more.
Significant amount more, yeah.
Jeez. I mean, he can say he wants that all he wants, but I don't see any team signing him for that. That's stupid.
Reportedly, the Steelers offered him 5 years, $70 million, and included 17 guaranteed. He turned that down.
To me, there's something about that team that people, the fact that you had Antonio Brown that wants out, Le'Veon Bell didn't even play last year. It's a soap opera for a reason.
Yeah.
So I think there's more to it than just that's not enough money. I think he didn't want to play for the Steelers anymore. I have no idea why. I don't know if it's Tomlin, if it's Roethlisberger, or a combination of both. But I mean, $50 million for 2 years. Come on, that's ridiculous.
Just $25 million a year.
Yeah.
I mean, jeez.
I mean, that's more than what Foles is going to get as a quarterback, the most important position.
Maybe. I could see Foles getting that.
I don't think he'll get more than 25. I think it's him get 25, but not more than 25.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think you could. Who knows, man? There's no telling what he'll sign for. I mean, look at the trends.
Would you be okay if the Jags signed Foles for $25 million? Let's say over $25 million the first year.
Man, I wouldn't want him for that.
Yeah,
but
I think that's what it's going to take.
It is. I think it is.
22, 23, and then $25 million.
I mean, everyone's trying to make that argument that there's now, since Denver got their quarterback, that there's not a lot of teams out there that want him. You never know what teams want.
No.
You never know. I mean, there's something always surprises you about what someone does in the free agency, and it could be the Raiders trade Derek Carr and sign Foles to 4 years, $70 million, 4 years, $80 million. Like, you never know what can happen. You never know that John Gruden could love Nick Foles. So you just never know what'll happen. But what about the second part of his question? Would you, if they didn't go after a quarterback in free agency or the draft, would you want them to go after David Carr?
Derek Carr?
Derek Carr. You don't want David Carr?
No, he can stay on the NFL Network. Let me say something real quick. This isn't a retraction, but if that's the price tag for Le'Veon Bell, no, Jaguars. Do not spend that money on a running back. If he wants to come back down to earth, then I say go after him. But to answer the second part of the question, if we don't get a QB in free agency or the draft, should we trade for Derek Carr? Here's my thing. I think if we don't sign a free agent quarterback and we don't draft a quarterback, I think the quarterback that we have is Blake Bortles. I mean, I don't see why they would go after Derek Carr at that point. But should we? No, I don't think we should. I think we should. Well, I don't know. I guess we would have to. I mean, it's either that or Bortles. I don't know what other options there are. Yeah. If you're not signing one in free agency, you're not drafting one, what are you left with? Either Bortles or a trade for someone else. And I guess,
Bortles is our quarterback right now.
He is our quarterback right now. That's what Coughlin said today. He was on the tee box with Capers when he said it. I don't think that's such a weird scenario because they have to do one or the other. They have to sign a quarterback in free agency or they have to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, they should do both.
They can do both, really. Yeah. And so to not do either would mean they were either settled on Bortles for another year, which would make no sense and is not happening, or they would trade for, I guess, Carr. I mean, I guess. So if the question is asking, do you think that would be a good trade? I don't know. It depends on what we'd have to give up for him.
I mean, there's all kind of random guys out there we could trade for, like Andy Dalton, guys like that just, are like, whoa, I forgot about them. But we're an equal, comparable play to Derek Carr, I think. So I was looking up the running back numbers. They have a list here of the highest paid running backs in the last 5 off seasons. 2014, the highest paid running back.
I don't want to hear this.
Toby Gerhart.
I was going to say
$10.5 million over 3 years. Highest paid running back in 2014.
Out of the league, by the way. He's no longer in the NFL.
Even had a stint at fullback. Couldn't handle there. But all right, well, I guess I'm going to answer the question, who should we target in free agency? I'm a big fan of Juwan James. He's like an amazing offensive tackle. He's from the Dolphins. He's 6'6", 318 pounds. He's only 26 years old. And, I mean, he may be getting like $3 to $5 million a year this offseason from free agency, which really isn't that much considering he's a starting offensive tackle. So you could put him on the other side of the line. Okay, so $5.2 million is what he's being estimated right now per year for a 1-year deal. They're saying you could get Parnell back on a $1 million 1-year deal. Is that something you would do if you could restructure that and get him to 1 year, $1 million?
I mean, that's pretty dirt cheap for a right tackle, but I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of under the impression and feel like Parnell's best days are behind him. So, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it though.
It's a cheap deal. That's such a cheap deal for quality depth.
It is. I would be okay with that actually. I would.
Yeah. And then, so I don't know. So, but offensive lineman, I think, is going to be our biggest need in free agency. I think even if you draft a guy, like I've said over and over again, you're going to need experience on the offensive line. I think Juwan James is quality experience, whereas a guy like Parnell is not quality experience. So, I'd love to see them go after Juwan James.
I will be happy with bringing in any offensive lineman because depth is obviously an issue because we were decimated on the offensive line with injuries last year, and we saw what happened. It was just atrocious. So, I would be totally okay with that. It's tough, man, because that's why I don't love the Foles idea to invest that much in one player when we have so many needs everywhere else. I mean, we have so many. And, we're reading the names off of tight ends and wide receivers and, offensive linemen. No one jumps out. There's just not those guys. And this is not a great free agent class this year. So, do you put all your eggs in one basket and believe that a quarterback like Nick Foles can come in and really right the ship? Or do you spend that money in 4 different areas on different guys and add depth and believe that will help? I mean, it's a tough question. It's a big predicament that the Jaguars are in. I'll be interested to see how they go about getting out of it.
All right, well, this is our last question. This is from Patrick Jackson. He's at _Johansson.
There we go.
And there's a good question in here, so keep that in mind as I read this. All right,
I'm ready.
Is a good question in here. Ross County played Inverness Collodion Thistle in the Scottish Cup last weekend in a game which could be considered the Jags versus the Panthers of Scottish football. And got me thinking, what teams are the Jags equivalents in other sports?
I'm sorry, I blanked out for a second.
I'll read the part.
It sounded like gibberish. No, I got it.
Okay,
I think it's pronounced, I want to say it's pronounced Inverness because there's a golf course. I think they. Oh,
I'm sorry, Patrick.
That's what I got out of all that. I think maybe he can let us know how it's pronounced. Patrick, help us out on that one. But I like the question. It's a good question. What team of other sports mirrors the Jaguars?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I'm really glad he asked this because I've been thinking this for a while. And this is my life, okay? Because I'm a diehard Jags fan. The other team that I love as much as the Jaguars are the Atlanta Braves, and they are the exact same. And this is why. Not like in their history, but in like the last couple years. So the Jaguars in 2017 were ahead of schedule, most would say. They didn't expect them to win the division, go to the playoffs, and then go as far as they did in the playoffs. Okay, and so they were still developing, and they kind of jumped the gun a little bit and went way further. Well, that was the Braves last year. The Braves have been rebuilding for a few years, and they go out and they win the division. They don't win a playoff series because they haven't done that in like 50 years, it feels like. It's been a long time. And the Jaguars answered their quick rise to stardom of the 2017 season by not really doing a lot this past season. They signed Norwell and got some other guys that didn't really make any splashes. Norwell was it, and then everything else was, they just kind of like bet on themselves. And we saw what happened there. It did not work out. The Braves have done basically the same thing this offseason. They went out and signed a guy, Josh Donaldson, which if he's healthy, could be an MVP candidate. I mean, he's that good, but he's had a lot of injuries in the last year or so. It's a big if. But if they gambled on him and if it works, it'll be huge. I mean, they believe in him so much they only signed him to a 1-year deal. So, and then they didn't make any other splashes with pitching or anything like that. And so I could see the Braves going from winning 90 games last year, winning the division, to finishing third in the division this year, and totally going backwards. And so because they didn't just want to continue to really get better, they're banking on what they had and building on last year. And I mean, they had a lot of weaknesses last year, mainly in pitching, both starting pitching and bullpen. This isn't a Braves podcast, but Patrick asked the question. So I would say the Atlanta Braves, for me, are absolutely like the Jaguars, and that makes me very nervous for this upcoming baseball season.
I'm about to go real deep here for Patrick. This is for you. And since you opened up about some sports that we don't know about, I'm about to open up on you some sports you probably don't know
Lord
about.
Jesus, I know where you're going on this one.
So my favorite team in another sport is actually exactly like the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. And it is my beloved Colorado Avalanche hockey team. They have missed on draft picks for what seems like the last decade. We've had one good draft pick since 2010, it feels like, Nathan McKinnon. And just like the Jaguars have had one good draft pick in the last 10 years, Jalen Ramsey. So they're equal there. They are supposed to be better than they are. They haven't been good in a long time. They dominated in the late 90s, much like the Jaguars did. And they had players that you could name from all over the league in the late 90s, just like the Jaguars did. They break my heart every season, just like the Jaguars do. And they had a coach that I once loved, Patrick Waugh, who was fired, much like the Jaguars when they fired my boy, Jack Del Rio. So when it comes down to it, I think the Avalanche and the Jags are very, very similar.
What about the Magic?
I almost went with the Magic, but here's the thing: is the Magic literally haven't been good since 2011, and the Jags were at least good in 2017.
They had one good year.
And the Avs had a good year like 2 or 3 years ago, where they were the number one team in the West and they lost in the first round. I would have said the Magic if the Magic have been so god awful. I mean, they've been terrible. And even 2011, they weren't that good. 2009, they were really good. 2011, they made the playoffs at least. But
how did the Colorado Avalanche become your favorite hockey team?
It's a funny story. And if you're listening this long into the podcast, I guess you might as well. I mean, you care to listen.
You're invested now.
Yeah, you're invested.
Dedicated.
So when I was in 1996 hockey season, the Avalanche played the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup, and I was 6 years old at the time. And my dad was watching the game.
Full of innocence.
Yeah. Had no clue. Had no idea they were going to break my heart. And my dad is a big hockey fan, and he was watching because the Florida Panthers were in the game, and he watches the Stanley Cup every year. And I saw the Avalanche, and I saw their sweet maroon jerseys. I was like, man, that's my team right there. And Patrick Waugh. I mean, I saw Patrick Waugh in goal, playing goalie, best goalie of all time, and I was like, that's my guy. I wrote like every book report growing up on Patrick Waugh. I mean, I can tell you everything about the guy. And he was the coach for the Avs for like 2 years. It was like my dream come true. Then he quit because he got mad at the front office because that's the kind of guy he is. But it was the first sport I ever got into, and it was the first team I ever liked.
Okay.
And so that's how I got into it.
And it was based solely on their uniforms.
Based solely on their uniforms.
I dig that.
And if you've seen their uniforms, they have the best uniforms in hockey.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I haven't, but maybe we can put that up on our Instagram.
Yeah, do it.
Let people see at Another Jags podcast. Well, that was a good question, an interesting question. I'm trying to think, and the Magic have sputtered like crazy. They've not great draft picks as well. You know more about them than I do.
They've had good draft picks. They just trade them away.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a pretty good question.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to discuss tonight?
Oh, man. This was a good episode, and I having to wait for Joey to finish his sentences.
I know. By far the best. Hey, here's a question. Totally off topic. Something that I thought about. I was out of town this weekend. Flew. I don't travel via plane a lot, but I did.
Out of the country. International trip.
International trip, yes.
Vacation, right? Vacationing?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Okay, so you're a gym rat.
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of dudes that wear the like leggings under gym shorts? I mean, you see basketball players wearing what purpose do those leggings serve?
Okay, so the answer that they will give you probably is that there is like minor science that talks about how compression is good for you. Kind of like runners wear the compression socks, with
Right.
blood flow
Mhm.
and all of that. But you see the type of compression that the runner socks have, it's completely different than the ones that the people at the gym are wearing.
Right.
There's like no compression in those. They're called compression shorts, but the real answer is that they are kind of comfortable. So I used to wear them playing flag football, look how tough I sound.
Right.
And when you'd fall, it was like, okay, I fell on compression shorts, not like my knees or whatever like that. So
But I'm talking about the ones that go all the way down to your ankles, like actual pants.
yeah,
They're
so
leggings.
I think they're just comfortable maybe
Okay.
and fashion,
Yeah,
but
they
there's
look cool.
no practical purpose
Okay.
for them at all.
Because there was a guy on the plane wearing gym shorts. I think, you're comfortable. You're in gym shorts. I get that. But with those leggings on,
Mhm. There's people that talk about wearing compression gear on airplanes,
is that just because of
like
the pressure in the cabin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something to do with the altitude. And
I was like, okay, I'm not going to judge this guy yet before I, ask around if there is actual benefit to it. But based on just I try not to judge people. Based on the outward appearance of this guy, I thought he just wants people to know that he's like cool.
that probably was what it is.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot. It's muddy science that even compression helps you with blood flow, which is why people do it.
Right.
So there's not even really solid evidence there that it helps.
Right.
So
And for
Even
everyone
that.
that's listening, no, that person was not Joey.
Joey wasn't wearing gym shorts and compression gear?
No, he wasn't.
Huh. That marks me as odd.
Yeah, it would have been like jean cargo shorts with a
Cut off shirt.
cut off
And a
shirt or a
backwards
tank
hat.
top. Yeah. And he would have been the guy barefoot on the plane, for sure. That's Joey.
That's yeah.
If you don't know what Joey looks like, there's your image. The dude that's barefoot on the plane with the jean cargo shorts and a wife beater tank top or a cutoff sleeve shirt.
Trucker hat.
And a trucker hat backwards. Asleep and snoring. Big time.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's a better note to end on.
No, I think that's as good as it's going to get right there.
All right. Well, that'll do it. Listen, not a lot of news going on this week, and we managed to pump out another episode of the Jags because we love them. And listen, we got the combine starting next week, so we're going to be talking about that probably the next 2 episodes because it spans a few days. And then once that's over, there's a little bit of a lull, and then free agency starts, I believe, on March 13th. So we are about to ramp up and have some fun conversations of hypotheticals and free agency and drafting and all that good stuff. So make sure to check us out. Spread the word. Don't wait for us to ask. You can tweet us questions anytime you want throughout the week. We love to interact with all the listeners on Twitter. So you can do that as well at Another Jags Pod or Facebook and Instagram at Another Jags Podcast. But that's going to wrap it up for episode 56. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, go Jags.